fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gentle. Fuck yeah. Sorry.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a test that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Oh, defense by Ethan Grigol just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring. Through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. He's just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa. That's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Just Send It series. The weapon of choice today, the Audi TCR, around the Japanese circuit that is Okayama. And this ought to be a whole lot of fun because it is Just Send It and it's all about just absolutely launching it and hoping it sticks. As always, we're live on SimSpeed TV and my name's Ryan Jones. Alongside me, it's Lachlan Mansell, and Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes. And Lockie, what a field we've got today.
Good evening to you, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. And with the current situation that we've got, with not a lot of real-life motorsport happening, this is the opportunity that a lot of real-world racing drivers get to enjoy their competitive motorsport fix. So, as well as some of the top sim racers in the country, we've also got some of the top real-life racing drivers lining up for week 3, season 3 of the Just Send It series. And of course, with the ARG Esports Cup, exclusively for real-life racing drivers, kicking off on Thursday with TCR cars at Bathurst, this is also a great chance for some of the competitors in that series to get some seat time in the Audi TCR car ahead of that 10-round competition, which kicks off in a couple of nights' time.
Certainly, a name we haven't seen in this series before, or certainly not to my memory, Lockie, is Oscar Piastri, who are all lined up today. He's, of course, going to be competing in the 2020 FIA Formula 3 Championship. So that's someone that's on the path to Formula 1. Going to be interesting to see how he goes today out there in a TCR, a tin-top machine. We've got Brock Feeney in here, Andre Heimgartner. Haven't seen Andre turn up particularly often, so good to see him. James Golding as well. Matthew Simmons, GT Academy winner a few years back when he competed in the Blancpain GT Championship for a couple of years. He's turned up. Shane Van Gisbergen. The list goes on and on at the moment.
I'll be interested to see how Oscar Piastri goes. Obviously, his most recent real-life racing experience has been in open-wheel race cars. As you mentioned, lining up to do the Formula 3 Championship, supporting the Formula 1 World Championship this year for the Prema Racing Team, which is considered to be a bit of a powerhouse of international open-wheel racing, having won the Formula Renault Euro Cup Championship last year. And a lot of people have described Oscar Piastri as the Australian driver with the best chance of making it all the way to Formula 1 and following in the footsteps of Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo. So great to have Oscar Piastri lining up as part of the field tonight. We've got Brock Feeney there, the reigning Super 3 Series champion, joining the field as well. Shane Van Gisbergen flying the flag for the full-time drivers from the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. And another driver to watch tonight will be James Golding. He is driving the Valvoline-sponsored TCR car, the same livery that he'll be running in the ARG Esports Cup.
Some good practice, as you mentioned, for those drivers. And that is a very good-looking livery, in fact. There are some cracking liveries for that series, as I'm sure you've seen. And there's still a few yet to be announced. But everyone involved with the painting of those cars has truly done a spectacular job.
And this is an interesting circuit as well, and I can actually speak from a position of a bit of experience now, because I finally got off the, this is something I should do mode and got into the let's actually do it mode, and I downloaded iRacing on the weekend, so I've actually had the chance to complete laps around very technical Okayama circuit in the Audi TCR car. And it's a very technical track, a lot of very slow corners, a lot of direction changes as well. One of the things that you notice with these TCR cars is just how short the gear ratios are. There were corners where I thought that you would be in second gear, you're actually in third gear for even the slowest corners on this racetrack, and there's some corners where you think you'd be in third, you're actually in fourth, so the gear ratios, like I say, quite short. And some of the corners are a bit deceptive as well, because they're greater than 90 degrees. So you turn into it thinking that it's a 90-degree corner, and actually tightens up as you go around the corner. So it is quite a tricky track to learn. My best lap time that I've achieved so far are 1 minute 41.1, which would probably be towards the very tail end of the third split for Just Send It tonight.
Yeah, still a bit of work to do for you there, it seems, behind the wheel, Lockie, and some great slingshot opportunities on this track too. Pretty big sized main straight, but that back straight, you can see it there on the track map between Atwood Curve and the hairpin. Coming out of a very long corner, it's Atwood Curve. It sort of curls uphill to the right, and one of those corners that doesn't seem to ever end, and then into a very tight hairpin will provide a lot of very interesting action and overtaking opportunities down there. Still a minute left to go in this practice session. Thank you to our sponsors of the series, as always, Modem Simulation, Erebus Motorsport, and Melbourne Performance Centre, who have continued to throw their support behind Just Send It, helping to make it what it is. And look at that, Piastri, currently quickest in practice. There we go, he's got some gusto in this sim racing world, it seems.
He's doing a good job of adapting to it. Very interesting to see how he goes in the race, that's for sure. You talked there about turn number 5 being one of the big overtaking opportunities, and that's because you are braking from 210 kilometres an hour all the way back down to about 65 k's an hour by the time you turn into that right-hand hairpin. The corner that leads onto the back straight, turn 4, also quite a tricky one to get right, because it tightens up. It's very easy to get understeer on the exit if you get on the throttle too early. One of the things that I found is you actually have to try and hug the inside quite a long way around the corner. As you can see there, riding on board with Luke King, because it's quite cambered on the inside, the camber of the track actually helps you get around the corner more effectively. So you actually hold quite a tight line all the way around that particular corner.
Well, let's take a look at how they're going to line up for this 40-minute race. And Jackson Susan Harlow will be on pole with Maloney alongside him, Cooper Webster and Job Stewart off row 2, Jaden Ransley and Scotty McLean 5th and 6th, Jack Lemon and Jaden Ranzik from 7th and 8th, Brenton Hobson from 9th, and then comes Shane Van Gisbergen in 10th.
Oscar Piastri will go from 11th position ahead of Jake Burton, another one of our full-time supercars drivers, Andre Heimgartner out of 13th, and then it's Madison down back to Justin Brugia, Thomas Hinds, Brock Feeney and Matthew Simmons. Good to see Jordan Mulak in the field tonight. Motorsport journalist who's trying his hand at sim racing, Luke Jackerman rounding out the top 20.
From 21st will be Josh Hames and Will Newell next to him. But the green flag's going to come up very quickly for us here, as this is some of the best we've seen the pro drivers do in qualifying for this series. Will it serve them any better as we get ready? And we're green here at Okayama. And Harlow immediately having to move over to cover off Jake Maloney, who had the better launch of the top 2, and he's going to push him down into turn number 1, trying to bump him wide. Not quite going to do it as they run side by side out of the first corner. But the lead of the race is on here, because Cooper Webster now gets his nose up there as well.
Excellent start there from Jake Maloney from the outside of the front row. Not easy cars to get off behind these TCR cars because of the extremely short gear ratios. You're only in first gear for a very short period of time, and then the car wants to burst into wheel spin, and you can see already the alternative lines that we're starting to see the drivers take for turn number 4 coming onto the back straight. Patience on the throttle required, and a look at the bump drafting that's happening between Jake Maloney and Jackson Suzel and Harlow as they head down into the braking zone for turn number 5 on this opening lap. Harlow looking to the outside, Maloney covering the ultra defensive line on the inside.
It's actually Cooper Webster that's got himself up into second place now, and he's got to slow down. No, big shame for the Evolution Racing team driver. This is going to check up a couple guys now. He's got Jaden Wanzik to his outside. This is an absolute mess of cars. Everyone's kept it relatively clean on this first lap. As I say that, Jack Lemon now gets caught 3 wide heading in to the penultimate corner of the racetrack. Shane Van Gisbergen is tucked up in there trying to make something happen. And there's Mitchell McLeod, who's had a shocking start, and he's out. And Scott McLean dives down a pit lane as Van Gisbergen launches one up the inside of Andre Heimgartner. The supercar aces banging doors down the front straight away. Heimgartner versus SVG in a drag race as there's contact behind them. That'll be just behind Oscar Piastri. Jake Burton on the very inside of the track takes him 3 wide. And now Burton trying to capitalise here as Piastri under a lot of pressure.
And a couple of cars firing off the road at turn 1 as well. We saw at the back of the shot there, a few cars just disappearing into the gravel trap. Still side-by-side action happening as they run down into turn number 4. Andre Heimgartner to the inside, taking the outside line there. In fact, was Heimgartner as he looks to get the better run onto the back straight, but he's going to lose the position. He's going to slot back in behind Oscar Piastri.
What a battle pack this is. Matthew Simmons, Madison Down, Thomas Hinds, Oscar Piastri, Jake Burton, Andre Heimgartner, Shane Van Gisbergen. What a list of drivers as there's contact. Piastri runs wide as a result. Almost 4 wide for a moment there. Heimgartner pouncing all over the place like a ping pong at the moment. Maloney now switches to the inside and around goes. No, not quite. He hung onto it, but that was Burton completely sideways there. And excuse me, it wasn't Maloney, it was actually his teammate, Madison Down, who had that big launch up the inside.
You could see that trouble was brewing in that pack, couldn't you? And it was Andre Heimgartner who went for the big send on Oscar Piastri heading down into turn number 5. Wasn't quite able to get the car pulled up. That was the initial contact, which then sent the field spreading out left to right. A few cars were running 2 and 3 wide into the next sequence of corners, and you could just tell that there was going to be trouble on for young and old as we ride on board with Jordan Mulak. Now he's worked his way up to 15th position, make that 14th after starting a few spots further back, and looking to make up some more spots as he attacks Thomas Hinds and Oscar Piastri, the next 2 cars ahead.
Jake Burton caught on the outside of Matthew Simmons, just behind these guys, a bit sideways for Burton, and this allows Simmons to get the run out of turn number 2. They run side by side through the sinking curves on the way up here to turn number 4, leading onto the back straight away. Aaron Borg might actually be the big beneficiary of this because he closes right up onto the back of these guys, and they'll continue to go side by side all the way down this back straightaway. But Simmons with the great run down out of that corner, and he will clear Jake Burton.
It's a star-studded field, so Aaron Borg we're talking about. He's the reigning Toyota 86 Series Australian champion, but he actually loses a spot as Will Newell gets down the inside. No, because Borg will be on the inside for the next left-hander at turn 6. Newell will look to do the switchback, but Borg will hold on to that position. With these TCR cars being front-wheel drive, it really is about keeping the momentum up and avoiding the mistakes, and you can see just how easily they're able to overtake one another. We've had passing manoeuvres plenty already in the early stages of this race. As is the norm for Just Sender, there will be pit stops tonight. There will also be a competition caution which will come out at some stage during the 40-minute race.
There might be a competition caution coming out at some stage in this race. We've had all this confusion before, haven't we? As up here, Cooper Webster up the inside at turn 1, trying to take the spot away. Can't quite complete the move on Jack Lemon, who's got the best line there into turn number 2. Webster looking for the crossover. Doesn't quite get his car to his inside. The gap out front is only 0.4 of a second, though. That is just a mere moment or two away from erupting into a big paddle, as well as Lee Harrison has found himself a long way off the track. We'll get a replay up of what's gone wrong. He's... What's he doing out there?
Well, he completely missed his turning point, didn't he? He was turning in from the grass on the left-hand side of the main straight. That's unsettled the car as he's gone to brake for turn 1. He's gone firing right across the ripple strip on the inside, and that's then fired him into the wall on the left. And with the new damage model, that will be substantial sheet metal surgery required to that Audi TCR car to get it back into the action. As we're saying, an incident. This is Steve Owen just pulling off to the side of the circuit on the back straight. Not quite sure what the story is there.
Big shame here, maybe some technical difficulties or real life drama. This battle for P2 then, very hot between Stewart and Maloney. He's all over the back of him. Jaden Ransley and Jaden Lanzik just behind them, and then the eternal meme of Brenton Hobson in 6th place, running in his famed spot back there as of course he is. Let's see if Maloney can make the move stick. No, not going to go for it down into turn 1 this time by. But while they continue to battle, Harlow will start to edge out to a bigger and bigger lead. Unless Maloney can get by Stewart, or Stewart can find a bit more pace.
So our pole sitter Jackson Sluzel and Harlow back out in front and making use of the clear track that he has at his disposal at the moment, taking advantage of the fact that the car's immediately behind, battling onboard with Madison Down, who's involved in a great battle with Andre Heimgartner, Shane Van Gisbergen and Oscar Piastri. Madison Down, a very accomplished sim racing driver, finds himself battling amongst a pack of very good real world racing drivers.
And up front, Maloney going for the move at the hairpin at the end of the back straight away, and about as textbook as you get in Just Send It. Makes it work, as back here, just about holding on around the outside is Madison Down from Andre Heimgartner. Some hiccups there with some of the visuals, courtesy of... I don't know whether it's Jay or the server. I think it's Jay. But we'll fix that for you in just a moment. It won't be too long. And we'll have more quality cars back on track. So we'll go radio for the next moment or so here. Lockie?
So the best lap time that's been set so far, 1 minute 36.4, recorded by Jackson, Sluzel and Harlow. The official lap record for TCR cars here at the Okayama circuit is actually a bit slower than that, 1 minute 36.9, but of course that, for it to be classified as an official lap record, it does have to be set during an officially sanctioned iRacing event, and we would imagine that the conditions in that event would have been a bit different to what we've got tonight in Just Send It. And we're hearing as well that unfortunately Oscar Piastri has been involved in a bit of a contre-top and has gone spinning down outside the top 20.
Involved in a what now? What was that word?
Contre-top.
That's I've got to look that up when we finish this broadcast. There's an
incident, an altercation.
It's an okay. All right. I need to go to some advanced English, I think. Is very close between Hobson and Cooper Webster. Trying to get to his inside. Hobson went really deep to try to counteract that and does a good job to hold on. Jack Lemon just off the back of this, and then closing in is Shane Van Gisbergen back in 9th place.
We know that Cooper Webster's fast. He was right up in the late pack before he copped that slowdown penalty, which saw him relegated back a few spots. So he definitely has the speed to push forward and get back up towards where the race leaders are. But right now he doesn't have any track position, and his race is being compromised by the fact that he's stuck in traffic. Wondering if maybe it would be a good idea for Cooper Webster to dive into the pits and maybe try and get out of this battle pack.
Someone has done exactly that. Andre Heimgartner comes down into pit lane. He'd just been overtaken again by Jake Maloney. So he gets out and comes down to service his car. He'll be hoping that once he does this, a competition caution comes out. That'll put him in the box seat. As we go back on board here with Jack Lemon.
Indeed it will, Ryan, and as we've seen before on many occasions in the Just Send It series, you want to have your pit stop out of the way if a competition caution falls, because if you haven't, that does put you at quite a big disadvantage.
Certainly does. Everyone will pretty much go straight on by you with ease. Nothing you can do about that if you need to make your stop on the caution. As we see here, Brenton Hobson has got Jaden Wanzik to his outside. Now he moves over to cover him off in front of him behind Brenton Hobson. Now 3 wide with Brenton Hobson as Cooper Webster and Lemon. And well, what do you know? The caution's out.
So competition caution comes out quite early in the race, actually. We've barely gone 11 minutes.
I think
we've
actually
already got a safety car.
It might be about the same time we had it last week, which I thought then as well was quite early.
Well, I'll tell you what, this will definitely play into the hands of the drivers who've done their pit stops, won't it? So having a look at our leaderboard, Christina Nazarick, the highest place of the cars that's done a pit stop. Scotty McQueen has done a stop as well. Luca Giacomin, Andre Heimgartner, Dylan Shepherd, Jay Cool, Jonathan Bykoff, Justin Brugier has done a pit stop as well. So it's definitely going to work to the advantage of some of those cars that are a bit further down the field.
Great news about this caution. We can actually get those issues fixed without missing any racing action, which is great stuff and happy coincidence there. I'm sure of that. So Harlow, Maloney, Stewart, the top 3 are all going to have to wait till pit lane opens. They'll come down. How many drivers, have you got the timer screen up there, Lockie? How many drivers have actually made a pit stop already?
So the highest placed car that has done a pit stop is the car in position 28, Christina Nazarick. So the top 27 cars all yet to pit at this stage.
Oh, the livery on that car too, when we come back to live pictures, is interesting, shall we say. Andre Heimgartner is 31st, so he's now in a very good position as well. But a lot of big names, and everyone at the front is going to have to do a lot of overtaking now. Guys like Harlow, Maloney, Stewart, I mentioned them, Ransley, Van Gisbergen, Thomas Hins, Madison Down, Matthew Simmons. But this does mean that we're going to see plenty of action off this restart. There's going to be a lot of fast guys at the back. And look at that, the issues have been fixed. Live pictures back. And Jay's just learnt something very important for future broadcasts. What setting he does not need to have ticked on his iRacing configuration.
So there's Andre Heimgartner, so he's sitting a bit further back in the pack at the moment. Just having a look to see exactly where he is, position 28 at this stage for Andre Heimgartner. It'll take a bit of time just for everything to shuffle out, but just for those of you just joining us who are maybe not familiar with the way that the safety car procedure works for iRacing, when the safety car comes out, pit lane closes, so you can't do a pit stop when the safety car is first deployed. Once the field is formed up behind the safety car, pit lane then opens and drivers who wish to do a pit stop can come down pit lane. But of course, if you've already done a pit stop before the safety car comes out, you get to catch up to the back of the queue behind the safety car. And that's the reason why it's so much of an advantage to get your pit stop out of the way early.
And every single car that has not done a stop already comes down into pit lane, and pit lane was suddenly going to become the most dangerous spot on the virtual race track then, as we wait and see how the race off pit road will unfold. It's a reasonably long pit lane here at Okayama, in fact, so we'll spend a fair bit of time down there. Very slow pit speed as well, only 60 kilometers an hour, but nonetheless, everyone that's stopped will definitely cycle through to the front of the field here. Everyone a lap down as well is getting a wave around.
Correct, so it gives an opportunity for some drivers to get back onto the lane lap. And you're right, all of the cars that hadn't yet pitted have now come in. So a bit like what we saw at Silverstone with the Formula 3 cars last week, Ryan. There's going to be a race off pit lane, and if you remember what happened then, there was a bit of carnage on the exit of pit lane, wasn't there? Looks like everybody's a little bit more well-behaved this week.
Yeah, there's no Armco barrier straddling the pit exit this time. So, Christina Nazarick, who showed up for quite a few of these races, we all recognise her name in the booth here, haven't seen her at the front too often, gets her shot now at the front of the field. Scotty McQueen will line up second. McQueen, a very good driver in these TCR cars. We've seen that in the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series every Wednesday night. You can catch that tomorrow on SimSpeed TV. Oh, who's just spun? Who's managed to spin under caution?
Trent Harrison.
Oh, of course it is.
He'll be kicking himself for that mistake. Oh, and he's actually collected another car as he's gone to rejoin the racetrack. Brock Feeney, so he gets spun and he will get moved to the back of the field. That's just embarrassing.
I think in Feeney's defence, he got hit by Harrison. I think. Trees haven't done us a whole lot of good there. Here we go, there's a better angle of it.
Ryan, one of the things that we like to talk about is the driver that makes up most positions. I'll just come back to that point because we see a replay of what actually happened there with Trent Harrison getting into the side of Brock Feeney's car as he rejoined the racetrack. But currently, we call it the Best Postman Award for the driver who makes up the most positions. At the moment, Jonathan Beekoff in 8th spot has made a net gain of 49 positions since the start of this race. And Jackson Suzlin-Harlow, our early race leader, because he didn't have his pit stop done when the safety car came out, he's all the way back in 20th. So, like you say, he's going to have a lot of work to do when we get the resumption of play here. 49
spots in 15 minutes. Imagine what he can do with another 20 minutes to go on this race. It's quite the effort, and there hasn't actually been any massive crashes, but we often see for him to do that. Luca
more cars
has also spun. No,
more cars going off under safety car than there were in green flag racing conditions.
You're exactly right. Cold tyres, but he's... Oh no! And he's ripped the front left off the car as well. Who was that? Trying to come through. Tyler Howard, trying to unlap himself, has rather unfortunately come into contact there. And we're back to green flag racing, back in live pictures. Well, the caution period was interesting, and the restart, I'm sure, going to be just as wild then, as the lapped car went off in turn 1, and Nazarick going to be under a lot of pressure from Scotty McQueen, as Andre Heimgartner's got Dylan Shepherd all over the back of him, and Shepherd just going off into the dirt there on the exit of turn 2.
This is going to be a hectic restart because there's cars that have got serious pace that are buried back in the pack, so expect there to be plenty of overtaking and expect there to be plenty of action and plenty of incidents.
This is a little bit further back in the 20s or so on the position sheet. Will Newell there missing most of the rear assembly of his car. We'll get a replay of his incident, and that was an incident for the JP SimShed driver with another car off there, and absolute mayhem through the hairpin. Cars everywhere, but they're all pointed straight at the very least. Oh, no, they're not. No, they're not. Jonathan Beekoff gets turned sideways and off and into the dirt and goes for a wild wide out there, but gathers it back up. We're going to lose all of his hard work, and then more some as he gets hit checked through there. And it's still on up here for P3.
Dylan Shepherd, a driver with lots of go-kart racing experience, working hard to try and hold out Andre Heimgartner. We ride on board with Jay Cool, who's very much in the thick of that battle as well, and a very wide moment for that Dylan Shepherd coming out of the final corner there. Andre Heimgartner slips through on the inside. Jay Cool very well positioned to capitalise should any of those drivers come together. I think there's a couple of laps cars that are in the mix here as well, Ryan, that are playing havoc with the race-leading battle.
Stephen Hoineville there is 51st on the table at the moment. That's actually Ricky Capo running around in there as Christina Nazarek trying to come back on Dylan Shepherd and Ricky Capo running around from the Modem Simulation headquarters as there's another crash. That was Aaron Borg, I think, that got turned sideways there.
It was coming onto the back straight there, copped a hip and shoulder, had a semi-spin, was able to gather it up and get going again, but has fallen from being inside the top 10 back to 17th position and sporting a fair bit of damage to the front of his Audi as well.
What on earth are you doing there, Shane? There's no room there. Oh no, he's going to get hurt, and into the fence he goes. The Team Redline car bounces back out very well from that, actually. Aaron Borg, not so much.
So it's gone from bad to worse for Aaron Borg after getting muscled out high and wide coming onto the back straight. He's been caught in absolute carnage at the end of the back straight.
Another replay. This is Jay Sewell into the corner, and Ricky Capo has served him up there, and the lap down car proves a menace to the leaders as Harlow is making some moves back in the field. You can see him in the back of the shot there, and that brightly coloured Logitech G-Altus Esports machine slices up and by Mark Ferdinand without much trouble. He's inside the top 10. How much further can he go? As Michael Yip is giving it all to Sir Ricky Capo, who's not yielding for anyone, has turned sideways, but saves for now. Can he? Jaden Ransley goes for an adventure off through the gravel, loses about 3 spots from that.
Actually, Jackson Suzlin Harlow is doing a really good job here because at the race start, he was in 20th position. He's worked his way up to 9th, so Suzlin Harlow making very, very good progress back up towards the front of the field. Oh, okay, so that was another incident. That was coming onto the back straight. Dylan Shepherd, who was up near the front of the field at the race start, but has drifted backwards since then. And Christina Nazarek's fallen back to 3rd position. She's been overtaken by Andre Heimgartner, who's now up to 2nd.
See if Heimgartner can get himself up to the back of Scotty McQueen as Harlow there having to deal with a slow car in front of him. Just in front, there's contact. Ricky Capo's off the track again. Careful, the rejoin. Ricky right in front of Harlow, and Josh Pertwee, the unlucky victim in that one.
Actually, that was very well read by Jackson Suzlin Harlow. He saw that there was an incident about to unfold, and he made sure that he didn't get caught up in it. So Jackson Suzlin Harlow gains another free spot thanks to great awareness and anticipation.
And now you're right on
Shepherd,
board.
who's now under pressure from Jackson Suzlin Harlow, who goes to the move down the inside. A textbook pass at turn 1. And that'll be another spot gain for Jackson Suzlin Harlow. Dylan Shepherd trying to fight back on the outside into turn 2, but Harlow will have the preferred line and will grab that spot. So Jackson Suzlin Harlow up into 7th.
Good job there, another spot. And I reckon he's going to get pretty close if he keeps this up. He's the fastest car on the track by quite some margin at the moment, half a second quicker than McLean and Heimgartner out front as it continues to boil away back here for the minor placings. Shane Van Gisbergen's managed to continue on after that touch, or big touch with the wall, as Harlow's just turned someone as well, by the way, further up the field. Oh, he turned Ruggier around up there, and he's rejoined as an absolute mess of cars. Ricky Capo is Ricky Capo is... I think he's been involved in everything so far. He goes for another spin, and that well and truly puts him out of the fight with the leaders.
And he'll rejoin right in front of another pack of cars that's coming through as well, Ricky Capo. So I'll tell you what, he's been absolutely belted from pillar to post in the second half of this race, the former Australian Formula 3 racer.
Certainly has, and Oscar Piastri trying to recover from his spin as well. Now he's got Capo to deal with here. Not going to be an easy customer in terms of trying to get by him, but he got a great run out of that final corner, and Laporte was inside, should be able to get by him here on the straight. I think Capo might actually have lifted off the throttle there. That is an almighty run he's got down into turn number 1, and that is a very well executed move from the Formula 3 racer.
I'll tell you what, Jay Kennedy, our producer, does not know which button to press on the cameras in this race. There is action going on literally everywhere. Every corner, every pack of cars, you sense that there's either going to be an overtaking manoeuvre or an incident that's just about to happen. But right now we're focused on the progress of Jackson Suzlin-Harlow. Got caught out with the suboptimal strategy, but he has done a sterling job of working his way back to the front of the field. And this will be another spot gained as well, as he slides down the inside of Michael Yip. So another spot gained for Jackson Suzlin-Harlow in car number 50 as he gets closer and closer to the front of the field.
And he is getting closer in terms of lap time too. 4 tenths quicker last lap, even with the traffic he's trying to deal with. Justin Rougier. We are riding aboard with Cooper Webster, who... Oh, did he hit him? Surely he did. His wheel's done, and I think that was a flash of Rougier. There he is. I think he's found the fence. And front right, a bit bent on that machine now. Misjudged that one, didn't he?
I'll tell you what, this new damage model with these cars, it's pretty unforgiving, isn't it? If you start banging into people too aggressively, you are going to end up with wheels hanging off and suspension components that are not pointing in the direction that they're supposed to, and that means an unscheduled visit to pit lane. So just a slightly misjudged overtaking manoeuvre there for Cooper Webster, and it's resulted in 2 damaged race cars.
It's a shame for those drivers then, as we head back to our live pictures. This is Job Stewart trying to make something happen here. Behind it, Josh Morris won't be into turn number 4, but we certainly had a look. That's Dylan Shepherd just in front of these two as well. Might come under a bit of pressure here because he's had a pretty poor run through that long uphill corner and down this back straight. Josh Morris with a great slipstream, it looks like, getting closer and closer to the back of Shepherd. Is he close enough for a look? He shows the nose and lunges in late on the brakes, and Job Stewart's going to get involved with this as well. Shepherd trying to fight back on the outside, but Morris will go through, and Shepherd now finds himself with Stewart in his back end, pushing him through there.
Plenty of bumping and grinding as they negotiate their way through a very technical section on the racetrack. Actually, pretty much the whole racetrack is filled with technical sections as Shepherd tries to get back down the inside of Morris, switches back to the inside, and Morris is going to go for a spin. Job Stewart gets down the inside and picks up a spot. Morris, I think, just about managed to save that car from a complete rotation, but he has lost a couple of spots out of it.
Just noticed too, Christina Nazarek's actually dropped out of the race from 3rd place, which is a big shame for her. She was having a great run up there at the top of the order, and now banging doors and banging wheels is Dylan Shepherd and Job Stewart. Shepherd holds on. The Pursuit Sim Racing driver's going to have to find another way through on the One Performance Racing car. Will it be up here at turn 4? Certainly close enough in my books to have a look. Doesn't go for it there.
This has been pretty robust defence for Dylan Shepherd. He hasn't been afraid to get his elbows out in keeping cars behind, but Job Stewart decides that he's had enough and does the bump and run on Dylan Shepherd's bumper as they exit turn 4, heading onto the back straight. That will cost Shepherd some momentum and allow Job Stewart to pick up that position as they run down into the hard braking zone. The big stop at turn number 5. And Shepherd back down the inside. So good recovery there from Dylan Shepherd to recapture that spot in the big braking zone of the hairpin.
And just behind the Panther race fuel car of Cooper Webster's closed up onto the back of this little group too. He's dragged Josh Morris back with him in the process of that as well. So now a 4-car battle for this as we go up to 3rd place Andre Heimgartner, in fact, up in second, coming under a lot of pressure from Nick Carroll and Jackson Suzlin-Harlow in fourth, ever closing. What's the gap to the lead for these drivers as they come across the start-finish line as Harlow looks to the inside, just 3 seconds from Harlow to the lead as he puts himself up into third. Scotty McQueen up front, we hear, might be fuel saving.
So Scott McQueen currently has a margin of 1.9 seconds over second-placed Andre Heimgartner. A few laps ago, that was over 3 seconds. So Scott McQueen is definitely losing time to the leaders. The man who is in the box seat here in terms of track position and in terms of raw pace, you would have to say, is Jackson Suzlin-Harlow. Since the safety car restart, when he was in 20th position, he has just been picking off cars one by one with clinical precision. He's now up inside the top 3.
How much of a fight then will Heimgartner put up as Harlow sends one and gets into the right rear of Heimgartner, who saves it? That's one way to get yourself up into P2. Then the Altus man now right in the box seat. Will Heimgartner want to return some serve on that if he can get back to the rear end of Harlow's machine? Nick Carroll separating them on the racetrack though, as now Scott McQueen has to lock his eyes firmly in his mirror because Harlow is there.
How long can Scott McQueen defend for? That's the question that you have to ask at the moment, because not just Suzlin-Harlow, but Nick Carroll and Andre Heimgartner have reeled him in at a rapid rate of knots. Scott McQueen just doesn't seem to have the pace to fight with the front runners at the moment, and here comes Jackson Suzlin-Harlow. Scott McQueen moves to the inside. Suzlin-Harlow chases him across the road. It'll be a braking duel into turn 1. Here comes Suzlin-Harlow down the inside, and our two race leaders will be side by side, contacts door to door on the run into turn 2. Scott McQueen for now just about holds onto the position, but look at the confidence from Harlow. So much grip, so much mid-corner speed he's able to carry, and he's going to be ideally positioned on the inside when they get to the next corner, turn number 4 for the run onto the back straight. And Jackson Suzlin-Harlow, who was 20th at the safety car restart, has got that car right back to the front of the field. What a drive this has been from Suzlin-Harlow.
McQueen not giving it up without a fight though. He got a good run heading down the back straight away. Now look out for Nick Carroll as well, who throws his car on the inside of McQueen, who's going to go back to P3 here, but he fights back on the inside, and this is gifting seconds now to Jackson Harlow out front as Heimgartner gets in and gives a hip check to Carroll, puts himself back up into third, but Jackson Harlow now able to check out by almost half a second back there as Carroll comes back at Andre.
Nick Carroll, a driver who's had experience racing in the Super 3 series, also Toyota 86s and Formula 4, with the opportunities to go door to door with Andre Heimgartner, the main game supercars driver. Michael Gipp doing a pretty good job as well, you would have to say. He's been able to take advantage on these battling cars to close up onto the back of them, and he's sitting there in position 5 at the moment, not too far off a top 3 position.
Josh Perwin and Thomas Hinds continuing to do battle. This is Hinds pulling to his inside, down to the main straight away, trying to replicate the move that Harlow made just a lap ago, and he'll do it a bit easier than Harlow had it, as Perwin just eases off and lets him roll on by there, putting himself up now into P9 in this one, as they finally sorted themselves out up front, and the top 5 all sit under a margin of 3 seconds. 1.1 the gap from Harlow back to McQueen. Andre Heimgartner sat there in third ahead of Nick Carroll and Michael Yip. I think you got to say Harlow is the man to beat now. Has McQueen got anything left in that tank to come back and put a charge back and get himself into a fighting position here? Is it gone for him now, the opportunity to win this race?
A bit further back in the pack, we look at Brenton Hobson making up a spot. Let's move on. Dylan Shepherd, who was in the top 10 not that long ago, but has been shuffled back down the order, and in fact is going to have his own mini incident just on the exit there of turn number 7. Other interesting thing here, Ryan, is that should Jackson Suzlin-Harlow go on to win this race, which you would have to say is a pretty likely outcome at the moment, he'll become the first driver to get a race victory in each of the 3 seasons of Just Send It that we've had so far.
Well, it shows you the versatility of the Altus Esports driver. Seems to be quick in everything he races at every track. And proving that point once again today is back up here on board with the Eclipse Sim Sports driver of Michael Yip. Looking ominously close to the back of Nick Carroll. Might be able to take this 4th spot away. With just a tick over 5 minutes remaining on the clock here in Okayama. Don't think he's close enough to turn forward. If he sets himself up nicely, he might be able to get the run down the back straight away and pull one up the inside down at the hairpin.
It's one of the main passing opportunities, isn't it? Like I said, it's a big stop there, and it really is about setting the car up for that big, hard braking zone. The cars do tend to get quite unstable in the rear end under brakes, and that's because there's not a lot of mass over the rear wheels, given that these are front-wheel drive race cars. So keeping the car pointing in a straight line, it's very important to make sure that you are getting all of your braking done in a straight line and then getting back on the power once you're actually turning into the corner.
Back there is Jaden Ransley and Dylan Shepherd. Shepherd up the inside. There's contact between them and Ransley holds onto it, but will lose out. And going through as well will be right behind him. Contact and served, and off the racetrack goes Ransley, and unfortunately... Oh, Ransley. Unfortunately.
So it was Ransley who went off the road, but it was Brenton Hobson who made contact, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Get a replay up of this then, and it wasn't Hobson that got him. It was Thomas McMillan that just tags him on the entry to that corner. I think they got caught 3 wide there, and that does often work at this track. You can see the contact there between Ransley and Shepherd in front. Now went into the corner. I think, in fact, McMillan held his line very well. Ransley turned in on him. McMillan there getting muscled out by the next car in line.
So this is what the margins look like between our race-leading groups of cars. So Scott McQueen has actually been able to pull some breathing space over Andre Heimgartner, who continues to battle with Nick Carroll and Michael Yip. Cooper Webster's gradually closing in on that battle group as well, and we know that Cooper Webster is another driver who's very versatile and has had lots of success in lots of different types of cars throughout the Just Send It series seasons 1 and 2.
Oh, look at this battle here on board with Madison Dowd. Oh, Shepherd getting turned to the right-hand side of the racetrack, and off into the fence he goes. And he will retire from this race as a result of that. But unfortunate.
I feel a bit sorry. I have to say, I feel a bit sorry for Dylan Shepherd, Ryan, because he's actually put up a really good fight.
Yes.
We saw him up in the top 10 earlier on, but he's just been on the rough end of the stick in pretty much every incident that he's been involved in. Here is Shane Van Gisbergen. He's done a good job as well. He was another driver that got caught out by that safety car, having not done his pit stop, but he's worked his way back up into the top 10.
Yeah, even despite that contact that saw him in the fence as well, he's recovered from both that and the strategy mishap, fighting himself back in a very good spot now, right behind Josh Morris, Stewart and Hins, just in front as well. He might be able to pick up 3 spots before this race is done. I think Cooper Webster, another 4 seconds up the road, might be a little bit too far as he right on board. Let's see if he can make this one stick. Down into the hairpin, does he go for the move? Is he brave enough on the brakes? The Kiwi from the Virgin Australia Supercars Series, he goes for it, left the room by Morris, and then just edges him out wide to take that spot away.
Morris actually made a slight mistake under brakes there for turn 5, and that was left the door slightly ajar. And when it's Shane Van Gisbergen, slightly ajar is all you need to make the overtaking opportunity work.
Third place battle, Heimgartner under a lot of pressure from Nick Carroll, and Michael Yip under a lot of pressure as well from Cooper Webster. These 4 cars going at it then for the final spot on the podium through the final corner. one of these four is going to get a very good run, and it's going to be Cooper Webster at the back of them as the white flag is out one more time around. Yip defends, but Webster goes for it up the inside, late on the brakes for Yip. He will hold on to that spot as Carroll and Heimgartner almost side by side in front. A slow run for Carroll, and he gets turned.
So Michael Yip makes contact with Nick Carroll. Cooper Webster in the box seat there to pick up a couple of positions potentially. He and Yip will go side by side on the run down into turn 4, and there's more contact between those two cars.
That's it. Cooper Webster
Around
off
goes
the
Cooper
track.
Webster. Yep.
Actually, I'd like Schoenberg is backing up into 7th place on the back of Job Stewart now, down into the hairpin. Does he go for the same move he made on Morris? Shows the nose, late on the brakes. Stewart tries to defend, but Van Gisbergen gets that car to the inside, moves him out wide, and P7 now, for P6 even, for Shane as Carroll gets turned sideways by Stewart. Rough lap for Carroll.
Nick Carroll, who was on for a top 4 finish at the start of this lap, now finds himself tumbling all the way down the order.
As Jake Burton, who got turned through the hairpin, as well as Jackson Harlow, will come through the final quarter for Logitech G-Altus Esports. He picks up another win in Just Send It. He gets it done today in Okayama in the Audi TCR. Fantastic drive back through the field from him.
He had to work for it today, Jackson Suzel and Harlow. It wasn't a case of driving away all on his own at the front of the field. The strategy did not work. He had to come back from a very lowly position to capture the win, so that was a very impressive performance indeed.
Replay up on screen. This is Josh Perlin out of the final corner. That car, that's not the line he probably wanted to take through there, unfortunately. And Brock Feeney comes across 24th, and that's going to be... Well, that's a parking lot, I'd say, down at the end of the turn 1 there. And a few spare parts will be needed in that mess of cars.
Clearly the driver's not too concerned about the state in which they return their TCR cars after tonight's proceedings.
One of the perks of racing, iRacing, you don't have to foot any repair bills or answer to any angry team bosses. We'll have those awkward conversations, and as we look at our results from Okayama, Jackson Harlow's margin of victory in the end was 2 seconds almost back to Scotty McQueen. Andre Heimgartner showing up the rest of the pros to come home in 3rd. Michael Yip and Thomas Hinds running out the top 5 ahead of Shane Van Gisbergen. Then came Job Stewart, Josh Morris, and the top 10 was rounded out by Brenton Hobson and Nick Carroll.
Cooper Webster, 11th position in the end after getting turned around on the last lap. John Irwin in 12th ahead of Madison Down. Back then to Thomas McMillan, Jack Lemon, Jay Cool, Jaden Wanzek, Jonathan Bykoff in 18th position, Oscar Piastri 19th, and Emerson Harvey in 20th spot.
Rest of the drivers will scroll through on your screen all 58 of the starters we had for this event. One of the biggest nights of Just Send It, the biggest of the season. Everyone wants to get involved in this series now. A fantastic field in terms of the pro drivers that turned up as well. What a show we saw today.
They certainly put on a show. It was hard to know when night was because there was drama and action aplenty. Battle groups of cars pretty much everywhere you looked around the racetrack. And as always, the timing of the safety car to bunch up the field and the variation in pit strategies made for a very, very exciting finish to the race. But Jackson Suzel and Harlow certainly earned it tonight. Very well done to him on capturing the win. 3 different race winners we've had, Ben, over the first 3 weeks for Season 3 of Just Send It.
And it will return next week at the same time at an unknown track in an unknown car. We'll find that out the day before green flag time. But if you like TCR racing, well, great treat for you. 3 nights in a row on SimSpeed. We pull out the TCR car tomorrow It's round 4 of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series from Snetterton. Then the ARG Esports Cup, not broadcast on SimSpeed, but being broadcasted by the Mr. Jay Kennedy, who is the man responsible for pretty much everything that happens on SimSpeed TV these days. And then, of course, the double take on Friday, GT Sprint and the Class C Chucks, and then NIS on Saturday, in which the viewer numbers seem to only be increasing because the racing is fantastic, and that's Bristol. That will be wild. But if you don't want to miss a moment, make sure you like and subscribe to SimSpeed on social media and on YouTube, and you can stay up to date with all our broadcasts. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Lachlan Mansell alongside me and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just fucked her in first, gave some gen. Fuck yeah.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a test that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Brilliant, look at defense by Ethan Rigault, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. Just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all 4 wheels off the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest. And
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and